Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Hosick. I'm the Adult Programming Librarian here at the East Brunswick Public Library. Thank you for joining us in person or online for this presentation. It is part of our Option Green lecture series, and it's actually part 2 of We Cycle. We partner with the Friends of the East Brunswick Environmental Commission, who do a lot of very important things around town. If you've ever heard of the Salamander Crossing free cycling, which happened just a few weeks ago, hopefully we'll have a fall date. The community garden just around the corner, National Moth Week, and lots of other cool projects that they do. You can join their newsletter or ours and find out about all the neat things we do for sustainability. We're very excited to have Stephen Rinaldi here from the Department of Environmental Protection Sustainability. Is it a division? Is it a subgroup? Or is it just sustainability?
The Bureau of Sustainability.
The Bureau of Sustainability, so it does have an official title. So he'll be giving a presentation, and then we're gonna have lots of time for Q&A. So think about questions that you may have thought about before that might not be addressed here, and hopefully he'll be able to address them. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello to everybody, and you guys all get special bonus points for coming out on a rainy night, so thank you very much for coming out. And as Melissa said, my name is Steve Rinaldi. I'm with the DEP's Bureau of Sustainability. I've been working for the DEP for 38 years in the recycling program, and I have been involved in pretty much everything involving recycling, from legislative implementation, rulemaking, grants, education. So I am a long timer at DEP. Before I begin, I should just mention I do have a connection to East Brunswick. Many, many years ago, I worked in the Brunswick Square Mall for 5 years during high school and college, when there was only 2 movie theaters at the theater over there. And I'm so old that it used to be called Bamberger's before it became Macy's. So I remember those days, but it's good to be back. So today I'm going to start off with some brief New Jersey recycling history, and then we will look at recycling and some waste reduction trends, innovations, and some other interesting stuff. So we're going to start off with some history, which isn't particularly exciting, but it's good to know where recycling started in New Jersey. Okay, in 1987, Governor Tom Kean signed the New Jersey statewide Mandatory Source Separation and Recycling Act. This was the first mandatory recycling law in the United States. The Recycling Act required recycling in the residential, commercial, and institutional sectors, and it made New Jersey a national leader in recycling. I actually attended the signing ceremony you see in this slide back in April of 1987. It was my first month at DEP, so it was a pretty cool way to start off my career there. The Recycling Act also called for counties to develop a county recycling plan. The county recycling plan designates those materials that have to be recycled from the residential, commercial, and institutional sectors, and it also identifies the strategy for collection, among a bunch of other things. The fact that each of our 21 counties had to develop its own recycling plan is the reason why recycling requirements vary slightly throughout the state. So you may recycle X in East Brunswick, but your friend in Mercer County may not. They may recycle something Y that you don't recycle. I should mention that there is currently some work underway to get all of the counties to recycle all the same materials as a way to reduce confusion. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that's something that's ongoing. The Recycling Act also required municipalities to adopt a municipal recycling ordinance based upon the county plan. So East Brunswick has a recycling ordinance based on the Middlesex County Recycling Plan. The Recycling Act was revised in 1992, and the key changes were pertaining to our state's recycling goals. The revision to the law increased our state recycling goal from 15% to 50% for what is called the municipal solid waste stream, which is residential, commercial, and institutional waste, and from 25% to 60% for the total solid waste stream. And the total solid waste stream is municipal solid waste, plus other stuff like construction and demolition debris, scrap tires, and some other industrial scrap. In the ensuing years, recycling programs flourished, and the amount of recyclable material collected increased significantly as recycling basically became a way of life in New Jersey. In the early 2000s, most New Jersey recycling programs switched from dual stream collection systems to single stream collection systems. In dual stream collection systems, bottles, cans, and containers are collected in one recycling bucket, and paper is collected in another. In single stream recycling systems, all the materials collected in one recycling bin, bucket, or cart. Now that switch to single stream was done primarily to make recycling more convenient for residents, but it unfortunately had a side effect where people started to think that they could put everything and anything into the recycling bucket, which led to some other problems that I'm going to talk about later. A recycling report from 2022 found that 73% of our state collected their recyclables using the single stream approach. This percentage is probably a little lower today since a bunch of programs have switched back to dual stream over the last few years for a number of reasons. All right, so let's go forward to 2013 now and look at a significant change in the worldwide recycling market that had a major impact on recycling in New Jersey and the United States. The Chinese recycling market, which for 2 decades had been taking in almost half of all the recyclable paper and plastic generated in the United States, instituted some very stringent recyclable material quality control measures starting in 2013 with a program they called the Green Fence Initiative. China continued to tighten these quality control standards in the ensuing years and eventually banned the receipt of certain recyclable materials from entering their ports. These import policy changes were enacted because of the high levels of contamination found in the loads of recyclables entering their country. This major end market disruption created a situation where the supply of recyclable materials was greater than the demand for recyclable materials, and so recyclable commodity prices dropped, basic laws of economics, and which in turn had a negative impact on local recycling programs and made for some tough years in the latter half of the last decade for these recycling programs. So I've touched upon recycling contamination, and that was the root cause of the Chinese recycling market disruption. So let's define what is meant by recycling contamination. By recycling contamination, I'm simply referring to anything that finds its way into your curbside bin bucket or your office recycling bucket, or eventually a load or a bale at a recycling center that doesn't belong there. So some prime examples are plastic bags, polystyrene coffee cups, garden hoses, batteries, syringes, bowling balls, and trash. Unfortunately, people say, well, this Barbie dollhouse is made of plastic. Our town collects plastic bottles. They must be able to take that, put it in the recycling bin. But that messes up the entire recycling system because that material goes to a processing center and that becomes a contaminant in the system. And that's just one example. Like I was talking to this gentleman earlier, plastic bags, when people throw the single-use plastic bags, which we don't have as much of now as we used to, it clogs up all the equipment at the processing center, like the hairs on the bottom of a vacuum get all intertwined, and it just completely messes up the equipment. They have to shut it all down, and it's expensive and it's dangerous to the workers trying to clear that kind of stuff out. Now, contamination also occurs when the right materials are prepared the wrong way. A good example of this is when people put shredded paper in their curbside recycling bucket. Shredded paper will not get through the processing system at a recycling processing center. So it will either contaminate other recyclable materials or will get disposed as trash. So what is to be done? While the worldwide recycling market is not something we can control what we collect in our curbside recycling programs. As a result, there's been a concerted effort by the recycling community, and that's municipal, county, state, business, to educate residents and businesses about the importance of recycling correctly so that only clean, marketable materials free of contaminants are collected. This is really crucial to the success of recycling. While there are numerous factors that lead to recycling contamination, a good degree of the contamination that occurs is simply the result of people being confused about what should and should not be put into their curbside bin, bucket, or cart. And I should point out that such confusion is not a New Jersey issue. It's a widespread issue. It's something all programs are dealing with across the country. My office produced a social media campaign on the recycling contamination issue, developed promotional graphics like the one you see here. We developed radio public service announcements, wrote articles, made presentations like this one, all about this topic, trying to get New Jersey to clean up its recycling stream. This promotional ad is one of the many that we have available on our website that the counties can use, municipalities, businesses can use. So it's something we've been tackling quite a bit the last 10 years. This graphic featured in this slide is one of 20 graphics from a social media campaign called Recycle Right New Jersey. And all these graphics can be used on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and they're all free to municipalities, counties, businesses, whoever wants to use them. So they're 20 very to-the-point graphics that really talk about all the materials that should and should not be put in your bucket. And we have an ongoing Facebook campaign that's also been used to help educate the public about the importance of recycling the right way. And that campaign tackles a whole wide variety of different issues. Another way by way of the DEP is trying to eliminate confusion about recycling is through its purchase of the Recycle Coach information system for the entire state. Recycle Coach provides specific information about local recycling program requirements through a web link, and more importantly, through a cell phone app that enables users to have this information at their fingertips. And I was speaking with this gentleman before. It has a little feature in there. You could plug in a certain material. How do I recycle X? And it'll tell you what to do. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the DEP is paying for this for the entire state, we have 565 municipalities. Last time I checked, we still have about 200 who haven't taken advantage of this program that's going to cost them nothing. And that's unfortunate because it's a very helpful system to have this right on your cell phone. Now, despite the challenges that have come up over the years, New Jersey is still doing a good job of recycling. Our most recent statistics for 2022 show that our state recycled 38% of its municipal solid waste and 54% of its total solid waste stream. But clearly that means also there's a significant amount of valuable recycled material that continues to be sent to landfills and incinerators each year. So there's still work to be done. But let's get back to recycling at the end of the last decade and then take a look at the impact of the 2020 pandemic on recycling. Let me just take a real quick sip. Okay. At the start of 2020, recycling programs were still struggling as a result of the numerous changes in the international recycling market that I mentioned that had taken place over the last 5-6 years, as well as some other related factors. As a result, recyclable commodity prices were low at the start of 2020. One important thing to keep in mind is that recyclable materials are traded on an international marketplace just like other commodities like oil, corn, and gold. And just like other commodity markets, recyclable material commodity markets are cyclical and impacted by many factors. So, the price of recycled materials will go up and down just like the price of corn and oil and gold does. And a perfect example of the market being impacted by a worldwide event was the impact of the pandemic in March of 2020, which changed the dynamics of recycling markets in some very interesting ways. So we're going to take a quick look at the impact of the pandemic on paper and plastic markets. Everybody probably has seen houses that look like this, right?
Every one of them is Amazon.
Yeah. With online purchasing booming as a result of the health crisis, the demand for recyclable corrugated cardboard skyrocketed since new shipping boxes are made from old corrugated cardboard and mixed paper. But with most businesses closed, not enough corrugated cardboard was being generated and recovered from the business sector to match the increased demand. The result of this situation was that the price paid for recyclable corrugated cardboard, which had been very weak, increased significantly at the start of the pandemic, and then it went up even further as the year progressed. While this market eventually cooled off, the commodity price for corrugated cardboard is now considerably stronger than it was prior to the health crisis. And as I'm sure you remember, when the pandemic started, people started going to the stores and buying every package of toilet paper, napkins, paper towels, tissues available, and so they drove the demand up for the raw materials used to make these products. Many of these products are also made with recyclable paper. And again, with businesses shut down, however, very little of this material is being generated and recovered. And once again, with demand up and supply down, the prices paid for these paper grades shot up quickly and remained strong throughout the pandemic. Just like with corrugated cardboard, the price paid for recyclable paper eventually cooled off. But again, the recyclable paper commodity market is now much stronger than it was prior to the health crisis. This is a recycling market price graph for the old corrugated cardboard and mixed paper from 2019 to 25. And don't worry about reading the small numbers on the chart. I just wanted you to see the big spike in the middle of the chart, which corresponded with the pandemic, where we saw the recycling market prices shoot up because of that increased demand. and the reduced supply. Now, plastic markets, which are greatly influenced by the price of oil, showed a different trend, however. As we entered 2020, there was a worldwide oversupply of oil, and so oil prices were low, which in turn led to low and declining market prices for recyclable PET plastic, which is your soda and water bottles, and HDPE plastic, which is your milk jugs and detergent bottles. The onset of the health crisis resulted in a further reduction in the demand for oil due to shutdowns in the manufacturing and business sector, as well as greatly reduced automobile travel. You remember, nobody was going anywhere. This led to oil prices dropping even more, which then resulted in recyclable PET and HDPE plastic prices dropping to historic lows. Thankfully, a new recycling market dynamic took hold as 2020 unfolded and went into 2021 as slumping recycling markets rebounded, while stronger markets continued to flourish as the year got underway. This new positive trend was that spike in the graph that I just showed you. Industry experts even spoke of the hot recycling market during 2021. Changes in consumer and business purchasing practices, oil prices, and the strengthening economy were just a few of the factors that made for an overall robust recycling market in 2021. You know, I get the question a lot, you know, are recyclables really valuable? Do they have worth? And just to give you a little idea, the last two new recycling centers constructed in New Jersey, these are the types that take the mixed bottles and cans and paper and with manual and mechanical means separate it into the different materials, bale it, ship it to domestic and international markets. The two latest facilities that have been built cost $20 million and $13 million respectively. The balers, when they take that paper, they bale it up into looks like a hay bale, but it's a paper bale. The same thing with the aluminum cans and the tin cans. Those balers all cost up to about $1 million each. No business is going to buy and invest $20 million in a new facility, $1 million in balers, if they're going to take that material and just throw it in the garbage. It makes no sense because they're getting paid for these materials once they leave their facility. So just to give you an idea, I talked about the market price. This is the current market prices for some materials. I won't read all of them, and it may not seem like a lot, but these prices make a big difference in the recycling programs run at the local levels because they see the revenue from the sale of materials as well. Old corrugated cardboard is now worth $120 a ton. Mixed paper is worth $75 a ton. Aluminum cans are worth $2,080 a ton. PET plastic, which is your water bottles, $320 a ton. HDPE natural, that's the milk jugs, the clear kind of HDPE, it's $1,960 per ton. So these materials have value. It's not garbage. We want to get people to get away from the mindset that it's garbage. These are valuable materials that have economic worth. Okay, so in general, the recycling markets for the past 3 years have been strong. As I mentioned, those are good prices, but they've been a little bit more unpredictable than normal, and that's okay. That's just the way the market fluctuates. So let's move on from recycling markets and look at two of the more significant waste management issues that have been in the spotlight the last several years, that being food waste and plastics waste. In regard to food waste, the Rutgers Eco Complex, which is down in Burlington County, recently conducted a waste characterization study in Burlington, Mercer, and Passaic counties for DEP, which showed that food waste comprised approximately 17% to 19% of the waste disposed in the trash by residents and businesses, making it the largest component of municipal solid waste. Food waste is not only a waste management issue, but also a food insecurity issue. There are a lot of people in our country who don't have enough to eat, and to throw out all this edible food in the trash just makes no sense. Last year, I went to a food waste recycler in Trenton called Trenton Biogas, and it's really an eye-opening experience to see this. They're not even taking in the waste, for the most part, from consumers who have, like your food waste. They're taking it in from food manufacturing businesses, stuff that got spoiled on the way or just never sold, boxes and boxes and boxes of all these produce. And it's really incredible how much never gets eaten, gets to people even. Now, in regard to plastics, if you look around your home, your office, or anywhere else for that matter, it is easy to see that plastics are an integral part of our lives. And while plastics do serve some good purposes, it's undeniable that waste plastics and microplastics in the environment have become significant environmental problems. Clearly, we need to reduce the amount of waste plastic entering the environment. There have been quite a few recycling and waste management laws passed over the several years, and I won't go into all of them, so don't worry. But as you can see in my slide, food waste is a key issue of concern. The food waste reduction law noted in my slide, that created a food waste reduction goal of 50% for the state. Hopefully, we're going to try to reduce food waste by 50% by the year 2030. And the food waste recycling law mentioned up there requires large food waste generators to recycle food waste if certain criteria are met. And of course, plastics, and in particular single-use plastic bags, were addressed in a law that was passed just a few years ago. And I will discuss the plastic bag ban, the plastic bag law, a little later in my presentation. As you can see, solar panels and electric vehicle batteries have also been in the legislative spotlight. While solar panels are not new, finding recycling options for them has become a hot issue, as the first solar panels that were installed 20 plus years ago are now starting to reach the end of their useful life. Thankfully, New Jersey's first solar panel recycling center started up in November of last year in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And like solar panels, electric vehicle batteries are now starting to enter the waste stream in greater numbers. Unfortunately, new products that arrive in the marketplace that were manufactured with no thought to their final disposition ultimately become waste management issues. A good example of this are vape pens, which are also known as e-cigarettes, which use rechargeable lithium-ion batteries to power the heating coils and to produce vapor. There is no recycling option for vape pens, and the lithium-ion batteries in them make them an environmental hazard. Lithium-ion batteries have been known to cause major fires at recycling centers, in garbage trucks, in recycling trucks, so they are definitely a problem for the environment as also for safety. So let's now turn to innovations in the world of recycling. A fascinating development is the use of artificial intelligence-enabled sorting robots at recycling centers. These robots can identify, pick, and place various materials like plastics, paper, aluminum, and more off conveyor belts at recycling centers. And they never call in sick, so that's one of the benefits as well. AI-enabled robots also continuously collect data on the materials they sort, providing real-time insights into material composition. More and more recycling centers around the country are now using robots in this fashion. Mazza Recycling in Tinton Falls, which is in Monmouth County, installed an AI sorting robot in September of last year, which I believe is the first AI recycling robot in the state. A relatively new recycled glass market is the foam glass aggregate market, which is another interesting innovation. For glass to be recycled into new container glass, it must be color separated. But for various reasons, most of the glass coming out of recycling centers is mixed color glass. In general, there are fewer uses of and markets for mixed color glass. Mixed color glass can go to fiberglass, it can go into road construction, but generally speaking, it is fewer markets for that material. Thankfully, a recycling end market that transforms mixed color recycled glass into what is called foam glass aggregate opened its doors in Philadelphia in 2018. Foam glass aggregate can be used in various road construction applications. This recycled glass product, as you can see in the picture, it gets broken down into little pieces of aggregate. It was used to rebuild Route 95 in Philadelphia in 2023 after that gasoline tanker truck accident, and it blew up the highway and collapsed the road. So they repaired it with this product, which was, about 10 minutes away from where the accident occurred.
Was that a permanent fix or a temporary fix, though, with the glass aggregate?
It was at first a temporary fix. I don't know what their final engineering plans were when they once they got the roads running again. Okay, let's next turn to scrap tire recycling. Approximately 9 million scrap and truck tires and countless bicycle tires are generated every year in New Jersey. That's a lot of scrap tire rubber to manage, excuse me. What if a new tire was invented that never went flat? Well, that has happened. The tires featured in this slide were developed by NASA for use on lunar and Mars rover missions. These tires are elastic like rubber, yet strong like titanium. They exhibit perfect shape memory without ever going flat. These tires are now being made commercially and are available to cyclists, and hopefully will reach the auto industry in the years to come. Obviously, these tires could have a huge impact on the world of scrap tire management. Here's another interesting innovation. This 46-foot-long vehicular bridge was built completely out of recycled plastic milk jugs and polystyrene packing peanuts and spans the Mullica River in New Jersey's Wharton State Forest. It has been in service for over 23 years and is strong enough to support fire trucks and other heavy vehicles. The recycled plastic lumber bridge does not chip, warp, or rot, nor does it need to be treated or painted. While this is not a new development, I thought I would mention it since it is a very innovative use of recycled plastic that most people don't know about. This bridge design was created through Rutgers University's engineering department. They have a professor there who's really innovative on structural recycled plastic. So now let's take a look at some interesting things going on in regard to waste reduction. As most New Jersey shoppers know, Governor Murphy enacted a law in November 2020 that prohibits the provision or sale of single-use plastic carryout bags, single-use paper carryout bags, and polystyrene foam food service products starting in May of 2022. The law also limits the distribution of single-use plastic straws. This law has been described by many as one of the most comprehensive in the United States. And there is little question that the law has been effective in reducing single-use plastic bags. The New Jersey Food Council, which is an organization that represents supermarkets, estimated that in the first 8 months of the plastic bag ban, 16 billion plastic bags were removed from the waste stream just from grocery stores. Now, while the single-use bag ban has worked well, it did lead to a new issue, which is the proliferation of reusable bags. This occurred largely due to grocery store delivery and pickup services. In contrast to in-store shoppers who may bring in their own bags to the store, delivery and curbside pickup customers are often required to purchase new bags with each order without the option to opt out. Additionally, most grocery stores will not accept reusable bags back. Thankfully, collection programs for reusable bags have been started in several counties, with hopefully more on the way. Donation of reusable bags to food pantry is also a recommended strategy. I know that I have done that, and the pantry is just so happy to get the bags. A big part of waste reduction is reuse. Thankfully, there are many outstanding charitable reuse organizations in New Jersey and throughout the country. So look to donate before throwing things away. This slide features a few of my favorite reuse organizations. Pedals for Progress and Sewing Peace is a nonprofit organization that accepts old but working bicycles and sewing machines and sends them to impoverished countries that greatly need these items. Second Chance Toys is an organization that accepts used toys, then cleans them up and gives them away to those in need. Goodwill Home Medical accepts used medical equipment and provides the equipment to those looking for crutches and wheelchairs, etc. Habitat for Humanity's restores accept used building materials and furnishings and then offer them for sale at discount prices to those who can't afford to buy new items. We have a list of local and national reuse organizations on our webpage, which you can find at recycle.nj.gov. There really are many, many organizations out there for all kinds of different materials, so definitely look to donate. Industrial reuse is an interesting area and something you might not be familiar with. There's a company called Repurposed Materials that accepts all kinds of industrial scrap items, such as used conveyor belts, plastic pipes, gymnasium flooring, steel drums, fire hoses, retail shelving, lighting fixtures, and then repurposes and sells the items for new uses. A fun example of this is the use of old street sweeper brushes as livestock scratching pads. I mention this company because of its unique mission, and also because it's the only company that I know that does this. Also falling under the waste reduction and reuse category is the Repair Cafe concept. A Repair Cafe is a free community-based meeting place to get a beloved but broken item repaired at no cost. Repair Cafes hope to transform our throwaway society one item at a time. These events also allow those with repair skills to help the community and teach others how to repair various items. The typical items repaired at a repair cafe include small appliances, furniture, lamps, bicycles, clothing, textiles, jewelry, and more. There are now over 1,900 repair cafes in over 30 countries. The South Orange Maplewood Repair Cafe, which is up in North Jersey, was the first one to be established in New Jersey. So thank you for inviting me to speak today and for your interest in recycling and waste reduction, and I would be happy to take any questions if there are any.
I have a mic so people can hear the questions at home. I just want to mention that the East Brunswick Repair Cafe will be coming on Sunday, June 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. in these rooms. In addition to soft textiles, toys, other things this year, or this session, we'll be having bicycle repair. We'll also be having lamp repair, and we'll be having demonstration stations throughout the time. So just want to tie it in because I just saw you do it there. We're very excited. Our first one, we repaired, 74 items or something like that? It was an amazing first time. So we're hoping to expand that.
I provided you with a great segue, so that's good.
Yes, it was good. So does anyone here have a question? I'll monitor online as well.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Just so other people can hear your question.
My question is, my daughter lives in New York City, and they started doing a food composting program there. Are there any foreseeable futures that New Jersey might do the same thing?
Yeah, there is some food waste recycling going on in the residential sector in New Jersey. Princeton had a program for a while. After a couple of years, they stopped it. Lawrence Township had one. Some up in Union County now are doing curbside collection. Actually, not curbside. They're bringing it to their depot. So that is going on. One of the problems with food waste recycling over the years is there has never been enough facilities to recycle it. You know, you can collect it, but where are you going to bring it? It's very hard to site a compost facility because of odor issues, and New Jersey's so developed, it's hard to find open space not near neighbors. But we do now have some facilities online. We have the Trenton Biogas Facility, which I mentioned. There's also a waste management facility up in Elizabeth. There's a new facility being built in Linden that'll come on, open up at the end of this year. And those three are pretty big facilities in terms of how much tonnage they can handle. So once you get that infrastructure in place, you have places to bring it, you don't have to drive 2 hours, you'll see more of these programs being developed.
Along those lines, my company had done some regulatory research and found the regulations haven't been updated in a long time to be able to build compost facilities, because in other states, they've sort of made it not as hard as like citing a landfill. So I think modernizing the composting regs could help with that infrastructure problem in the state and make it is still hard to cite, but at least it's not like a landfill, right? There's a little more leniency to treat it as, a desirable thing to bring into the state.
Yeah, landfills, incinerators, transfer stations, compost facilities, they all require a solid waste facility permit. And that's not something you can get in 2 days. It takes some time. There's a long rulemaking process. The DEP's Division of Sustainable Waste Management is looking at all of their regs, trying to see where they can improve them and make it easier to site these facilities and get through the process. That's one issue, but the bigger issue with some of these facilities is nobody wants one in their backyard. There was a food waste composting facility planned for, I think it was either Hunterdon or Warren County, around their borderline. Nothing around it for miles, but such an outcry against it. I don't know if it's ever going to get built. And so that's really the difficult part of any kind of facility, even recycling centers. Nobody wants to have a recycling center near them. So it's difficult to get facilities cited in New Jersey. But the regs definitely need to be improved. And they are looking at improving things so that community compost facilities can be developed with less steps and hurdles to go through. So they're definitely working on things like that.
So I have one from online. They said, it is still disappointing to see what people put in their recycling buckets. Styrofoam, tissues, paper plates, cups, forks are very common. How can residents be educated to recycle correctly?
Well, that's a big part of my discussion was about the recycling contamination issue, and that is those are contaminants. Anything that goes in your bucket that doesn't belong there, that's a contaminant. And we try to use education, municipalities, the counties, the state, the recycling industry. Everybody's doing recycling education. The Recycle Coach system is a great way for people to have, everyone has a phone, just get that app on your phone, and I think, see what you need to put in there and not put in there, and that should go a long way to cleaning up the stream. People just also have to realize the stuff at the curb that you put for the recycling, it's not garbage. These are commodities. These are materials with value. So you got to start looking at things differently too.
If someone hadn't joined our last lecture of the We Cycle series, we actually had people from Middlesex County Recycling and the environmental team that had some materials that they brought for us, but you can also check that recordings. These materials you can find them at different organizations and events throughout town to tell you where things go here, if you are here, or if you came the other one, we have magnets and things as do and don'ts, because some of the things had changed, things that I didn't realize, something about the caps on bottles for them. You was always separate them. They said, no, that doesn't, that affects the new streamline of how they sort those things. But those things aren't something we would necessarily would know. We have to be proactive and find them out.
Yeah, and as I think I mentioned, East Brunswick is part of the Recycle Coach system. So, definitely get that on your phone and use it. It's a very helpful thing. And every municipality has a recycling website which lists all the materials, what's acceptable, what's not. They really do a good job. And every county has a recycling website, and they're super informative. Middlesex County's got a great recycling staff and a really wonderful program. So definitely check their website out as well.
Okay, does anyone, here, hold on.
I just wanted to give a shout out. There's an app called Too Good to Go, and you know what that is. And so I come from the UK, and there's a second app. We have Too Good to Go where restaurants and stuff sell there, and it's active in this area. It's mostly like bagels and pizza. After a bagel place or a pizzeria shuts down for the day, whatever's left over, they'll sell for a huge discount, and you have a very short time frame to go and pick it up. But also, when I lived in England, there was another app called Olio. I haven't seen it, it doesn't look like it's come here, but I thought maybe that's something you can.
What is it, Olio?
Olio, Olio. And
I'm not familiar with it.
what it is a lot of it is most of it is supermarkets where their produce is kind of, again, baked items and fresh produce that's just nearly at the end of date, and they package it up and let people buy it for a discount. Or we have because I lived in a city, greengrocers that would actually sell just fruit and veg, when they're kind of they can't really sell it because it's got a blemish, but you know what? You can cut it off, and most of that stuff is offered for free, and then they opened it up to kind of individuals who just maybe have food at their house that they're never going to eat. It might be out of date, but you know what? Cans, who cares? Usually it's not a big deal, but you can have a look it up.
There's a program based in Princeton that doesn't just work in Princeton, works in the whole area and is expanding. And for the life of me, its name just slipped my mind. But they take excess prepared meals from corporate cafeterias and events, and then they have the ability to keep it in refrigerated trucks and bring it to residents who are looking for food. So hopefully it comes back in my mind, it'll jog my memory, but it's a great program. That kind of thing is starting to happen more here in New Jersey as well.
So Steve, you've been talking about how these items have value and people should realize that they have value, what's being collected at these recycling centers. How much of these bales are actually getting purchased and sold?
Any recycling center that bales a material is selling it. They're not going to spend the money to put all that work and effort into it without, selling. So it goes to domestic and international markets. Right now, the international markets are paying more than domestic markets, so you probably see a little bit more paper and plastic going overseas than staying locally, but they're getting paid for it, believe me.
So I have a follow-up question, if that's okay. So does the county or the state have any campaign regarding reduce before recycle?
Oh, yeah, I mean, waste reductions, otherwise known as source reduction, has always been at the top of what we call the solid waste management hierarchy. It's like reduce waste first, then recycle, compost, incinerate, landfill at the bottom of the pecking order. So over the years, we've been promoting waste reduction for as long as I've been at DEP. It's a harder thing to quantify because it's hard to quantify waste reduction, and it probably hasn't gotten as much attention as recycling. It's gotten more over the past decade, I would say, as food waste in particular has become a big issue. So waste reduction has always been something municipalities, the states, and the county and the state have been pushing, but it's probably a little bit in the shadow of recycling.
Hi, I have two more. On the plastic bag side, or, the PE film, one thing I've noticed is like produce bags and veggie bags are still allowed to be handed out, right? But then I also noticed with the bag ban, most of the stores that you can take that stuff back to took away their bins. So like the ShopRite, and there's so much more of that material than just the bags, right? There's like the wraparound, drinks and bubble wrap and air pillows. So we lost that ability in many places. Wegmans is the only one I've seen that still has it to actually, recycle that material. So I'm wondering if there's voluntary or other policies to like bring that back, as well as taking back the reusable bags. Because I think some kind of policy would help stores, be encouraged to do that again. And then I have a second one, but do you want to answer that one first, or?
Well, it was unfortunate that stores, once the bag ban went into effect, they said, oh, we don't need to take them back anymore. Not all of them. I know Whole Foods still takes them back. I don't think
No,
ShopRite
actually,
does.
Brown Brook, they won't take stuff back.
I know the Princeton one does.
The Princeton one,
Yeah.
okay.
But it's definitely a smaller universe, and that is a shame. Because that material has value, and there are a lot of municipal programs that collect plastic, it's called plastic film, and you could collect that stuff, get paid for it, and there's a company called Trex that makes plastic lumber. For a certain amount of tonnage, they'll give you free park benches and picnic tables and things. So it's a definite win-win. It's just a matter of getting a program in place, and that's something a town, East Brunswick, any municipality can certainly do at their depot, set up a plastic film collection point, because I know it's a problem. You go to Sam's Club, come back with those paper towels wrapped in plastic, what are you gonna do with that stuff? The whole of the store is only this big at Whole Foods, you can't shove that in there. So that's definitely an issue, and there are more programs out there now. Union County now has a whole plastic film collection program. So I would like to see more of that, because that stuff takes up a lot of space in the garbage, and it's valuable, and the industry is looking for it. And we can't just say to a store, I mean, the DEP can, maybe if a state law was put into place, you have to take this back. We can't do that. But, I don't think there's any state laws that's going to say that, because the stores might just say, well, plastic bags have been banned. Why should we have to then collect them? So you're going to.
Thank you, yeah. Union County is the one to follow, it sounds like, then.
Excuse me?
You said Union County, right?
Yeah, I'm
Has
pretty
the-
sure Union County has started
Okay.
a countywide program.
Yeah,
How do they work it?
They have different collection points throughout the county. It's not a curbside collection. You have to bring them to the facility.
Like in each town or something like that?
I don't know if they have one in each town. I'd have to check on that, but they have enough to make it convenient.
yeah. So my other thought is, so I'm a member of this dumpster diver group,
What group?
dumpster divers.
Oh, okay. So you're hardcore.
Well, I don't actually do it. I actually more just like follow because it's so interesting. And, a lot of people feed their families that way, but the amount of stuff that goes into commercial dumpsters is appalling. Like Men's Warehouse, like 100 white Oxford shirts, Ulta with makeup. And I feel like with policy, like there's got to be a way to stop that waste, because they they don't really want to donate it because they're worried like people try to bring it back and get money. There's like all these reasons that they have, but it's, I probably should stop following it because it's so disheartening, like all, yeah, but it's so much stuff and stuff people could use. So I don't know if that's something you all could look into, but I think it's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of textile recycling operations out there, and, you know, there's no reason to throw textiles in the garbage. It just makes no sense. You can recycle them cheaper or send them for reuse internationally, less money. And I know that there's ways to get around so that they can get rid of the branding on it if they're afraid that their brand is going to be misused. But, you know, it is a shame. There's a lot of opportunities for donation and recycling that companies aren't taking advantage of. And these things, you know, certain things, there's only a certain number of things that are mandated for recycling in the business sector. And like nobody's mandating, you know, shirts, you know, so they have to want to pursue that themselves because it helps their bottom line. If they, you know, in New Jersey, in this area, it's like $100 a ton to dispose of waste in a landfill or transfer station, where if you can recycle something, even if you have to pay to recycle and it costs $30, you're $70 ahead by recycling. And in many cases, you're getting paid for the material, like the plastic film. Yes, yeah.
So someone in the chat, Lisa, has some good tips and tricks for us. Says locally, we have the Flash Food app, which Stop and Shop participates in, so talking about getting food. Stop and Shop has plastic foam recycling, so don't all run there at the same time, let's space it out. They said they had just dropped off plastic film there last week. Also, they said the East Brunswick Sustainability Facebook group is looking into that Trex program, so there's already been some forethought there.
Yeah, we've had schools that have done their own plastic film collection programs. We actually gave a recycling award last year to a school in South Jersey who recycled, you know, tons and tons of plastic film. And also there is a woman in Burlington County who won, we have different categories in our recycling awards program. There's a volunteer citizen. She collects plastic film from all these different organizations and puts them in her car. And she recycled tons and tons of plastic, and we gave her an award as well. It was an incredibly dedicated woman. She's a retired person who's just super gung-ho about recycling. It was fantastic.
So someone's still typing into the chat. I'm not able to pull you online, so if you could type your message into the chat. So you mentioned this award that the state gives. What kind of projects are there included? Are they targeted toward high schools? What kind of projects are in that?
I should mention it because the actual award program is underway for this year. We've had an annual DEP Recycling Awards program for 40 years, and we have 11 different categories. So we have a category for business, institution, government, industry, retail merchant, volunteer citizen, recycled product procurement award, rising star, and education. So I might be missing one, but we have this great awards program, and anyone can nominate anyone. You can nominate yourself. And it's an awards program that recognizes achievements above and beyond the norm in recycling and waste reduction and sustainability for this year. It'll be for activities that were undertaken in 2024. We just launched the program this year on March 15th, and the award nominations are due at the end of July. There's a big recycling forum in October. We have a luncheon there where we give out the awards covered by the press. There's press release. So it's a really great program, and it highlights some of the great high achievers in our state.
Someone from the Sustainability Task Force, Holly, said she's involved with the Aldersgate Food Pantry and the supermarkets, and some of them do donate produce towards the food pantry. So there is a connection. I believe that community garden, some people have grown for the senior center for Meals on Wheels as well. So trying to capture produce that way. More locations are trying to do the Trex program, but it said West Windsor Farmers Market had to stop collecting because it requires so many volunteers to sort the materials. So I guess thinking about that process and everything too, figuring out how to make that sustainable in the sense of making sure there's enough people to do it and it's not just piling up and becoming a problem elsewhere. anyone else here have any questions, comments? You do? Oh, yeah, that worked out really well.
So you mentioned in the beginning, and we all know that recycling rules are very confusing. And you mentioned in the beginning that basically every county, every town can set their own rules. Is there any attempt to make it a statewide set of rules that's unified, standardized?
Yes, I did mention that there is a initiative underway to try to see if they can get all the counties to recycle the same materials to help avoid confusion. So like if you work in Middlesex County and you live in Bergen County, you'll know that you're doing the same thing. So it's a little tricky because a lot of towns and municipalities have long programs that have been going on a long time. And they have different markets in different parts of the state, and the recycling centers have different requirements. There's like 21 processing centers in our state. So they all have invested large amounts of money into these systems. So maybe not everyone has a system in there that can handle number 5 polypropylene margarine tubs, but these 3 can. So it would be hard for all the material to go to a recycling center that isn't equipped for it. So it's hard. There's a lot of things that have to be worked out, but it's definitely being looked at right now because that's definitely one of the reasons for recycling contamination is the confusion of what should and should not be recycled.
This obviously has nothing to do with New Jersey directly, but one of the confusions is you see a lot of things that have the recycling logo on it. And I think it's been an issue in California, that quote, in theory recyclable, but in practice they're not. And if you're you see the number of people here and how many people are in East Brunswick. So, there aren't that many people that are really into this stuff. You see a recycle and say, wow, it's recyclable, and toss it in the bin. And obviously, a lot of this stuff doesn't pass muster. It's a big problem.
No, you're right on the mark on that. It comes down to exactly what you said. Theoretically, pretty much everything is recyclable. Practically speaking, no, not everything is. You have to be able to collect it, process it, and market it to make it recyclable. So when they throw these recycling symbols on these products that nobody collects, it confuses the public. And then they throw it in their container. There's legislation that's being proposed called truth in labeling that would dictate what can be put on a product.
That would be federal or state?
It would be, it's a state law they're trying to pass.
Yeah, I've noticed, I buy coffee, I drink a lot of coffee, but they used to come in tin cans or
Yeah.
metal cans,
Yeah.
and now they came in this corrugated, like it looks like cardboard, but I think it's sprayed with like an aluminum oxide inside, and there is a stamp in it that said recycle, and then when you go to that site, it said, oh, that's not that product's not recyclable. So it is kind of false advertising.
Yeah, and there's like a whole movement to try to get called design for recycling, that we're trying to get manufacturers to design these products so that they're readily recyclable. When you have the container that's paper with metal and a plastic, that multi-material thing is not going to be recycled. They can't separate those materials. So that type of thing, if a manufacturer designed their product for easy recycling, it would make things so much easier for the consumer, because it's confusing, especially in the world of plastics. Because you throw a symbol on like a Barbie dollhouse that's plastic, no one's recycling that for the most part. I mean, maybe someone will, but no programs are readily recycling these weird things, so makes it hard for people.
Someone brought up the pizza box situation that I have had an argument in my own household about. So people don't realize what contamination does. It's like, oh, you could just pull the lid off for things and not understanding how sensitive something like that could be into the system. So there was
Yeah,
one.
you're not going to like the answer to this one, but
Yeah.
the pizza box dilemma, the answer is it depends whether you can recycle. And actually, there's been some movement over the past few years to change that. Historically, the grease and the cheese that's in the pizza boxes will screw up the paper recycling process, so they just don't want it at all. Some programs in the past had said, if you cut out the greasy part, we'll take it. The paper industry has been sort of like softening their position a little bit on pizza boxes, and there is starting to be some programs that are now taking them. It's not widespread, but it is something that's going on. No recycler wants cheese and grease in their process, though, but they are trying to expand the recycling of pizza boxes where they can. But again, it's one of those things, check with your municipal or county website on the recycling in your area, because it'll vary based upon what markets your program has.
So if it's a clean part of the box, is it okay? I mean, not the entire box necessarily. I understand the grease part.
Yeah, well, and theoretically, a clean part of a pizza box would be fine. It's not that the paper isn't
Just
recycled.
another box.
But if your town doesn't collect it and they see a pizza box in there, they're gonna say no good. So check with the town or the county first, or your Recycle Coach app. That'll tell you exactly what's going on.
I have a question in the chat, and someone said, with compostable plastic products now on the rise, how can consumers differentiate where to dispose of it? It doesn't seem like there's a way for, like, when they have those compostable bags and things, those cups that your coffee can come in. How do you know that they actually recycle and the best ethical way to recycle them? Do we just put them in with everything else because they're not numbered? Do we just throw them in the regular trash?
Well, unfortunately, in the absence of any recycling option, the answer is the trash. The compostable plastic doesn't seem like even works together, those two words. Ultimately, when in doubt, throw it out, but first check your town's or county's program. Like in East Brunswick, it's a municipal program. I live in Mercer County, it's a countywide program. So I go to the county website more than my township one. But check to see what materials are accepted before you want to recycle.
Compostable and
anything.
plastic don't necessarily seem like they go together, and that's why people want to,
Even
is it necessarily better? Does it actually biodegrade?
Yeah.
I guess that's a conversation for someone with far more technical skills.
Even these biodegradable
it's been
claims
an-
for other non-plastics are, leave you a little skeptical, I remember years ago seeing these biodegradable golf tees. I don't know, are they going to be biodegradable in 100 years? Maybe, I don't know.
So are there any facilities in New Jersey that can treat this kind of compostable plastic?
I don't know of anyone handling compostable plastic. No.
I'm always very confused with the cardboard, like almond milk, oat milk. I'm always confused about things in cardboard containers that you said, like coffee with a liner. Like I rinse it out, and then I don't know if it's going to be a problem recycled with the cardboards if it has maybe not metallic, but a coating on the inside. So should I continue putting it in with the cardboard,
Well,
commingling, or?
I'll answer specific and then give you a bigger answer. For your particular, check with your Recycle Coach or your municipal website to see, do they take these items? In general, those almond milk containers and the juice boxes and the soup boxes, those all fall under the aseptic packaging category. Some counties and some municipalities collect them, not all. Mercer County accepts them. And there is a limited small market out there for those materials, but it's not a widespread thing. So that's why you definitely want to check. Like if you said, can I recycle aluminum cans? Yes, everybody's recycling aluminum cans, but not everyone's recycling those aseptic packages.
What are those called?
Aseptic, A-S-C-E-P-T-I-C.
So I'll put that as a question for my.
Yeah,
Thank you.
or you can go to the website of the East Brunswick Recycling Department.
Just real quick, are you looking at a statewide list that would be the same for everything in the state? So you don't have to, have it be different from your work and home? I thought I had heard that
Well,
was.
that's what I had mentioned, that there
Yeah.
is some ongoing work trying to see if we can get everyone recycling the same materials. Recycling's been in place since '87, and it's sort of hard to undo that, because even like at the municipal level, there are municipalities that go beyond the county requirements. maybe the county requires these 6 materials, but this town is so gung-ho and have found markets, they mandate 10 materials. So it's hard to get everybody on the same page. The basic materials, everybody's recycling. It's all these little extras that are a little, not quite as, standard. Excuse me for a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'm having a glucose spike right now, so my alarm just went off.
But we didn't cause it.
I have a sensor. It's a 10-day sensor. Day 1 is always a bit screwy, and today's day 1 of my new sensor, so I don't even know if this is accurate right now. So it might be because I'm here making a presentation in front of people. Adds the little background stress.
So I have another question in the chat. Regulations are requiring companies to create products that are considered compostable. And if there's no setup for municipalities to properly treat that, how do we make that next step? If these companies are being told, you need to do this, but we can't follow through with the life cycle of those materials, what needs to be done?
Well, generally speaking, companies are not being told how to manufacture their products. If there was any kind of program like that, it would have to be at the national level. But there is that Design for Recycling initiative I mentioned that the industry has been pushing to try to get businesses to make these things readily recyclable. It's also the Truth in Labeling law that's being discussed, bill that's being discussed to try to end the confusion about these different products and whether they can or cannot. Businesses, they need to get on board and realize that, their products ultimately are going to become a waste management issue at the end of the line, which in many cases is the municipal government who collects the garbage. So, you can certainly write to the companies, write for federal packaging legislation. So it's a tough one, though.
Any last questions? Stephen, I really want to thank you for taking the time to answer all these questions and have suggestions and tips and resources where we can go and become better consumers and people who put things into the life cycle of materials. We really appreciate you coming. I think I've learned a lot, and combined with what we had with the county last month, I feel I have a much better view of what actually recycles and what I need to do, be mindful and share that information with others. So we really do appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.